All right, Gianni, you wanted to talk about China still holding their COVID data back. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. Is this a truth or a lie? So Jake Sullivan says the White House has deep concerns over how preliminary results were communicated. Sullivan added that it was imperative that the report remained independent and free from intervention or um, alteration. Alteration by the Chinese government. Some of the results of pinpointing the outbreak by WHO investigators were that it was unlikely the coronavirus had originated in a lab in China, but the transmission from animals to humans needed to be further investigated. Also, the WHO investigators weren't ruling out many theories, including one by the Chinese government that the virus had come into the country through frozen food imports, despite evidence suggesting such a spread is unlikely. President Biden pledged to rebuild ties with the WHO, which were severed by ex-President Trump. After the preliminary findings were released, the Biden administration began expressing skepticism that the WHO report did not offer the full picture of how the virus spread um, in China and then globally. So my question is, why would China have anything to hide, so to speak? And do you believe this is intentional misinformation from China, from the WHO, or miscommunication?
And the WHO being the World Health Organization. So
Yes,
let's start out with Rob.
Okay.
World Health.
So when I dug into this a little bit, my immediate thoughts were if the outbreak took place in the US, people like Jake Sullivan would be doing their utmost to ensure that US interests were represented in any World Health report. They wouldn't accept another country being at the table with the WHO. They would want to be at the table with the WHO presenting the findings. The WHO is nonpartisan. They are neutral. They have no political allegiances, and they align themselves only with the UN in the principles of their core values: integrity, professionalism, and respect for diversity. They put
I might
people's
challenge
health.
you on that, but I think the WHO might be still an organization, so there's
Just like
politics involved.
of course, just like the UN is an organization, so it can
They try to
absolutely
be
be open
neutral.
to. They try to be neutral, absolutely. But misinformation can destroy a country's economy, social fabric, and I fully understand why the host nation has their people at the table. At the end of the day, the WHO is a guest in China, and Chinese representatives are working with them. It's been an international effort. They gain nothing by holding back information, and they gain everything by sharing the information and working with the international community to work towards developing effective vaccines, for example, learning from one another on deployment strategies and containment strategies. But unfortunately, what happened with this is I started tracking it very, very early, and it grew exponentially. By the time they started taking note of it, it was already gone. They had already lost control of the situation. It was already international. So I don't know that China and the WHO are trying to withhold or deliberately mislead
Mislead.
anyone. Mhm.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree. I think China is hiding something, no doubt. But they finally did let the World Health Organization in recently to do further investigation. But of course, 2 months later, after they cleaned up whatever they need to clean up, so are they hiding something? They're hiding something. I don't know what it is. It might have been numbers so that they would not look so bad. It might have been how they handled the pandemic because they might have done some pretty shady stuff to handle the pandemic and control it.
Mhm.
Because they actually did very well controlling the pandemic, considering it started there. So you got to wonder how they were able to handle it. I mean, of course, if the numbers are right. So I think there's something wrong. There's something they're hiding. Just not clear on what.
Well, Neo, containment in China was done very differently. When you
Of
have a
course.
communist power that rolls the army to your neighborhood and says, you get to leave once a week for groceries, guess what you're doing? You're leaving once a week for groceries. You're not screaming and fighting about your rights to wear your mask and do whatever you
Mhm.
want, because if you do, you get locked up in a
Not
hole
gonna have
or
no
you get the
whiny
crap
babies in China.
or you get Exactly. Or you get the crap beat out of you publicly so everybody else learns the lesson and says, shit, I'm not doing groceries.
Can I tell
Okay.
you, I went down to North Carolina for my vacation, and we were so pissed, my wife and I, because we walk into the food line and there are all these maskless people. We go up to the manager and say, "Hey, this person's not wearing their mask." Manager goes up to them, and the woman says to him, one of the women says to him, yeah, I can't wear a mask." And he's like, "Okay." And then they're just walking around like it's nothing. And I mean, it's all these like people with guys in camouflage, these big dudes in camouflage, and it's the same people all the time. Lizzie Andrews, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Um, I guess my point is, yes, the political party in China is the Chinese Communist Party. But when have we ever known them to be transparent?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
yes, they, had full lockdown on their country so that, you had to follow the rules or else.
Shut down the
But that
internet, all that.
doesn't mean that they're going to share that information with the rest of the world. China has always kind of, skipped along to the beat of its own drum.
Hmm.
And that's been one of actually the reasons for the conflict between China and the United States and China and other countries, in the world. I mean, this time last year, we were feuding with China big time. And the year before that. So, yes, I applaud them for the way they were able to lock down their citizen, but I think that was with an iron fist that, in some respect, we really didn't want to see here. But I don't trust them to be transparent. I don't trust them to come forth with, all of the factual data about the origins of COVID and what actually went on in the beginning. That's not saying that I'm pointing the finger. I am not, calling it the China virus. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm saying is the government of China is suspect.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I don't, it wouldn't surprise me if they were holding some things back for their own personal gain.
And it wouldn't
Um,
surprise me if the WHO was helping them out. I'm just I think it's unlikely, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Neil's a conspiracy.
I would be
What do
surprised.
they call
A
it?
conspiracy theorist. I would be surprised because there would be no advantage for the WHO. There would be
Well,
no advantage at
I don't
all.
know. They were still trying. They still wanted money. They still need money to survive. So, um, and governments they still have to look appealing to governments. Um, so you
But
still,
you're not going to look appealing to governments by lying on behalf of China.
I mean, but people lie. I mean, that makes sense in theory, yes. But in the real world, people will lie and cover up and do all these things. Yeah,
Listen, I could say I don't believe shit NASA has to say,
and
but
you shouldn't, because they probably didn't do the moon landing. Who knows?
don't get yourself fired, brother. But at the end of the day, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not running around, pulling up the flags and saying, okay, no, like this is China. This is not who. This
All
is
right.
not WHO. This is China. This is the conflict. This is who they are saying we need to see your data. Why are you holding back from us? And so I don't know how we investigate it properly or how we get a hold of that. I need to educate myself
Right.
more on that. Um,
Yeah.
Not
but
much
yeah,
you can do, really. I mean,
I would not be
Yeah. What can
surprised.
you do?
do you have Did you have any comments that you wanted to add or anything before we get to the comments online?
No, my question was genuine. I really wanted to know you guys'
No.
thoughts
Okay.
because I'm not as educated as to how things spread
All right.
in China. So yeah.
So there are a couple of comments online. Mike Winter says, Neil, the history of China is simply to have one voice that is unopposed. They claim they did well with the pandemic. You have no clue what the truth is unless it comes from the UN or the WHO. Please don't believe the folks who believe China. I wasn't saying that. I don't believe China in any way, shape, or form because that's the way they act. I agree with that 100%. Um, what do we have? Olivia says China could lose everything. The world, each country and sue them for reputation. I don't
I
wonder
think
if
she
she wants
means
to say
reparations.
reparations. Um,
But the
but
problem is China owns most of the world's
I was gonna
debt.
say,
So go
I
ahead.
was
You're
gonna
gonna,
say
you're gonna
that.
sue the
The U.S.
you can't
biggest
sue the
debt
person who has all the money.
they
is
own the U.S.
They're riches.
Yeah,
They're
We owe
literally the.
China trillions.
Ain't
What's
nobody suing
yeah,
China for nothing.
what's after
exactly.
trillions? I stop at trillions because that's just so out, past my bank account. But what's beyond
Yeah.
trillions? Because that's what we owe China.
Quadrillions.
I know.
Yeah, quadrillions,
Is it quadrillions?
quintillions,
All of that.
Quadrillions.
Add all of them
sextillions,
together.
Billions,
septillions.
septillions. Yep.
Add all of them together. That's how much we
Sounds
owe
like
China.
reptiles.
Yep.
Wow.
Reptiles. Reptilians. Septillions.
That's dinosaur money. That shit's real.
All right. That's all the time we have for hot topics, unfortunately.
You pay back in reptiles. That'll be
Get
cool.
back in work. All right. Great comments online. Good topics, guys. Good topics. All right. So as you know, we always have to